I'm gonna get started in 1 minute. All right. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to welcome you to today's roundtable discussion and the third panel of the Law Student Section Meet and Greet Series. This evening's discussion will feature attorneys from the General Practice Section, the Environmental and Energy Law Section, and the Health Law Section, where they'll be providing you with a better understanding on the experiences, rewards, and challenges they faced practicing, while offering insight on the various career opportunities available in each of these areas of law. During this live program, participants are welcome to post questions using the Q&A tab or chat function in the Zoom portal. There'll be an open Q&A session after each panel, and at the end of the program, if there's any additional questions that you may have. At this time, we're going to get started with the general practice section. Tamara Kenworthy and Robert Brown are going to speak on behalf of the general practice section. Tamara will start first. Tamara, if you just want to give a brief description about yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tamara Kenworthy. A few words about me. I'm originally from Belgrade, Serbia. That's where my accent comes from. And I've been practicing law for about 17 years. I am a general practitioner, so I do transactional law and litigation. And I have been very active in general practice sections since maybe 2015, 2016. Initially, I was a district representative and then the secretary, and now I'm a treasurer. I'm also active at international section where I'm a co-chair of Serbia chapter and women in the law and a few other sections. Do you want me to maybe mention a few benefits of joining the general practice section?
So the first question for you would be, how did you decide on your practice area?
Very good question. So I would maybe describe myself as an ethnic lawyer. And what does that mean? I made it up, but it means I focus on clients from former Yugoslavia because that's where my niche is. So because they have various legal needs at different points in their lives, I didn't specialize, so I stayed a general practitioner. And basically the market and everything led me to being a general practitioner. I've been practicing for about 17 years and the last 8+ as a solo practitioner.
Okay. And how has this section supported you in your career?
Another good question. So being a solo, which works for also small law firm practitioners, but also mid-size and large firms, you in a section, you have that partner down the hall that you don't really have in your real life. So it's so much collective wisdom and experience in these attorneys that are members of the GP section that you can always call or email any of them, and they will either give you the answer or give you the draft form or send you to somebody who specializes in any particular knowledge that you need. So that's been very beneficial for me for the general practice. And in the end of the day, most attorneys end up doing general practice because that's the nature of running the law firm, especially a small or smaller law firm.
Perfect. And you want to tell them a little bit about this section?
Yes, so I don't know how many members we have right now, but we have members throughout the New York State, even I believe abroad. And we as general practice have CLE classes, continuing legal education. We also meet for the annual meeting in January for NYSBA, where we throw various programs that show recent changes in the law or ethics, because everybody always needs ethics CLEs. And we stay up to date with what's happening in our field, in our profession.
Perfect. And what was one misconception during law school about your area of practice?
I didn't know the questions in advance, so you have very good questions. So misconception about my area of practice, or I don't know if I would find a misconception, maybe just an oversight of not teaching the law students how to run their practice. So I don't know what the misconception would be. In the end of the day, we all carve out our own way of practicing law, and whether we have work-life balance or not, or what works for us, what doesn't work. But I think the oversight was not teaching the law students how to run their practice if they decide to do so.
Okay, and what is one like what is one thing that you would tell law students?
In general?
Like as a advice.
Advice. So
Yep.
all get as much experience as possible while you're in law school. So judicial internships, externships, at law firms, at mediation clinics, whatever you can get your hands on, that's really going to help you prepare you for practicing law. And of course, join NYSBA, especially the general practice section, because we cover all areas of the law. So the chances are that no matter which area you practice in, there will be members who specialize in that area. So be proactive even while in law school, because you will have an advantage over other law students that are not active in New York State Bar Association, and they're not mingling with potential mentors and future colleagues. So just be very active and be up to date with what's happening in the law.
Perfect. Is there anything else you'd like to add as we wait for Robert to join us?
I would like to add good luck at the bar exam. I don't know how many people joined this call, but I'm assuming they're second or third year. So bar exams coming up. So good luck and don't worry, you got it. And you survived 1L, so you're going to survive the bar and everything else, and enjoy the practice of law. And you will have that gratification of helping the clients, because they'll come to you when they really need help, and they are usually in either in the middle of a divorce or a business divorce. So you will make a difference in their lives.
Perfect. And it looks like Robert has now joined us. Hi, Robert.
Yeah, a little technical difficulties, but I made it.
No problem.
I got you, Robert. So I will actually switch my camera off and mute myself, but I will stay on for any questions or comments.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Robert, you're in the hot seat. No, just kidding. So if you'd like to just briefly explain who you are.
Sure. My name is Robert Brown. I am the chair of the New York State Bar Association's general practice section. And I have a general practice in Manhattan and in Staten Island. I'm a retired NYPD captain. When I first retired, I went to a firm called Fried Frank, which is a big international firm. And ultimately, I opened up my own firm 17 years ago. And I am a general practitioner. And in this day and age, that's a bad thing. You know, even the questions that I saw that were prepared are, you know, how did you pick this area of law to focus on? And, you know, there's varying degrees of general practitioner. Some people refer to it as like a door attorney. When I first opened up, someone said, "Oh, you're going to be a door attorney," and what that means is you take anything that comes in the door. And perhaps, when you first open, that may be the case, but as you become more and more, sure of yourself and you have more and more business, you can turn a lot of things down. So for us, for me specifically, I focus on criminal, which is one of the things I have literally all hell breaking loose on a criminal case right now in Brooklyn that's getting a lot of media attention. I do civil litigation, personal injury, and civil rights, and I do foreclosure defense. So I don't do everything, and I do a little bit of election law. And I always say the general practice section taught me how to do election law, because we have all of these CLEs, and right now this year we're co-sponsoring a ton of them, but a lot of election law based CLE comes out of the general practice section. So, to me, it was a good thing to join. Some things that were very interesting to me were how to get involved in election law, how to buy or sell a law practice. I'm sort of at the position where, I'm looking for strategic moves to make and trying to find retiring lawyers looking to sell their practice. And we've had CLEs on that. I think we're going to do additional CLEs on that at the annual meeting, of the ethics of it. And it's, if you think about it, the people that are going to come are going to be people that are interested in buying and people interested in selling. So for a young attorney, these are great things, because it's a way of expanding, what kind of business you have. I had somebody who's a retiring matrimonial attorney that wanted me to take over his practice, and I just don't have the time for it. And I have another person that was a retiring commercial litigator, and he wanted me to take over his practice. And again, I really didn't have the time in order to do it. But the general practice section, it costs $25. It's the greatest bargain in the New York State Bar Association. We have a lot of different events. We're trying to get more involved with the young lawyers. I think that it's a good thing. We're looking to expand our membership to younger people, and we can provide mentoring programs for people. Some people may come out of law school, depending on how the economy is at any particular time, with a job lined up, and others may not. And it takes a big leap of faith to sort of go out on your own. And I've heard many times you could read books and people will say, "Oh, you need 6 months worth of savings in order to do it." I don't agree with that at all. I mean, you come out and if you compare what you can make in your own firm versus being an employee, it's significantly more when you're on your own. So I don't know if I answered the question yet, or if that was too long-winded, but yeah.
And how has this section supported you in your career?
Like I said, with the election law, it certainly taught me how to do it. We have a listserv, which is really something that's geared, I think, for people older than me, even, and I'm pretty old. But that you can ask questions and say, "Hey, I need a lawyer in this county," or "Hey, I have a question regarding service of process or what I could do." So you have that kind of support. You have people that literally practice in every practice area in every part of the state as part of our section. And there's a real deep knowledge, and people are willing to help. So if you're young and you want to learn how to do an area of law, or you have questions about something, jump on in. $25, the best $25 you'll ever spend.
Okay, perfect. And what was one misconception you had during law school about your area of practice?
I thought that you needed to know, right? And I'm 58 right now, and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, right? And I thought when you were coming out of law school, you needed to focus on something, and that's really not the case. Right now, I am taking on my first bedsore death case. So it's something like that's a very discrete area of law. Not a lot of lawyers practice in it, and I'm learning how to do it. And if you think that you can only do one thing. Like when I first came out of law school, I went to a big firm, and as a summer associate, they had you rotate through all the different departments. And when I rotated through those departments, some of it, made me sure that, like, for instance, I didn't want to do corporate work. So I did a week in the corporate department, and I was like, this is just not for me. But there were other things like real estate I liked, bankruptcy I liked, and clearly litigation I like. So, as you don't need to in law school know what you want to do for the rest of your life. And the other thing, that I say this all the time, with a law degree, you could pretty much do anything. I had a colleague that she turned it into being a TV commentator, right? So you might think that, you got to go practice law, and that's not the case. I mean, I have a young lawyer that I mentor that he started out in the corp counsel working for the city, didn't like it, and now he switched to matrimonial, and he's in a very short period of time, he's one of the best matrimonial lawyers in the state. He was just featured in the Super Lawyers this month. So, it's you can always learn something new, and that's what our section is so great for.
Perfect. And I'm just going to open it for questions. So if anyone has any questions, you can put it right in the Q&A. While we're waiting for a question, what is one piece of advice you would give a new law student?
I would say keep your mind open. Clearly, the other thing is do as well as you can in law school. People don't realize it. I had somebody, recently, they're like, I've been a lawyer for, 20 years. And they asked me for my transcripts from law school when I was looking to switch jobs, right? So what you do in law school really stays with you. So, do the best that you can. When I was in law school, I was involved in everything. Like, and I was a lieutenant and a captain in the police department, and ultimately running a precinct at the end. I was in the Student Bar Association. I was on law review. I was in the Criminal Law Institute. I was doing trial competitions. I was doing everything that I possibly could to make the most out of it, and really enjoy what I did. And the other thing that really surprised me too is the classes that I thought I would do the best on, right, in law school, or it wasn't necessarily the classes that I did the best in, right? So sometimes you think that you have an interest, and then you actually get into the nitty gritty of what it is, and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible, right? So keep an open mind, and do the absolute best you can.
Perfect. So it looks like we have a question. Did being a lawyer help with being a police captain?
That's a very good question. I originally went to law school to stay in the police department. My goal was to stay for 42 years and become a chief, and that was the whole purpose. So as a captain, if you have a law degree, every promotion above captain in NYPD is discretionary. It's political. It's not based on tests. So deputy inspector, and then all the levels of chiefs, all are based on merit as opposed to test taking. So being a lawyer clearly gives you an advantage against your competition. And what happened was I did better in law school than I would have thought I would have done, especially being involved in all those things. And then people are like, well, you're going to interview on campus, you're going to, go for a big job. And I'm like, I'm already set in the police department. I have no interest in leaving. And then I interviewed, and I did well in the job market, and I wound up taking an early retirement from NYPD, and after just under 16 years, and then becoming a lawyer at a big firm. So my goal was to use it for advancement within the police department, but fate had a different idea in mind for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So it looks like you have about 2 minutes left. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Again, when it comes to, we really would love to get as many law students involved as possible. I have my executive committee meeting after this today for the general practice section. If people are interested in it, one of the things that I've sort of been trying to push that they've done in the past is give free membership to the general practice section to law students. So, if we had interest in that, I could certainly present that to the executive committee and see if we can get it going again. And part of it would, I think, would for it to really take off is we would need people in the law schools kind of selling it, saying, hey, you know what, you could join New York State Bar Association and get a free membership to the general practice section and really see many different types of areas of law. I mean, just if you look at the CLEs that we've co-sponsored, general practice pretty much touches on everything. I mean, I personally don't do like trust and estates work and real estate transactional work anymore, or mergers or corporate work, but we have people in our section that do it, again, all over the state, from Long Island, from Suffolk County to Buffalo. We cover it all. So again, come on down, and if you're interested, let us know.
I have a question actually for the students, and if they don't feel comfortable talking, they can put it in the chat. Why would they like to join the GP section? And it's for the price of pizza. You can join the section and tap into the amazing mentors that you may get, or you may send your resume. They may be looking to hire, or they may be looking for per diem attorney. But I'm curious to see, why did you join this particular section? And we would love to have you, of course.
All right, don't all jump at once. So Tamara, I don't know if you mentioned about your practice, about the Serbian aspect of it.
Yeah, I did. So I basically described myself as an ethnic attorney, but I'm a general practitioner. So I'll do anything that the client needs to do, either as a solo or with co-counsel, and not just in New York State, but in Arizona, California, Illinois, wherever they need help. So sometimes it's trademarks, sometimes it's a divorce, international inheritance, business divorce, shareholders agreements. So, and if I don't know anything or I need help, I have amazing colleagues to contact for help.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk Tamara into doing her own CLE on how to build an ethnic practice.
I did a CLE, actually. I was speaking at the annual meeting, NYSBA's annual meeting, but it was about ethical considerations when you represent a multilingual client. So if you're a multilingual attorney, or if you have a client who brings a family member for the estate planning session, what are the red flags? But I can explore other CLEs.
We're asked, are you licensed to practice law in a foreign country, and how does that help clients?
That's an excellent question. So I'm not. I am originally from Serbia, but I'm licensed in New York State. I can work in other states as pro hac vice, but how does it help? From the perspective of understanding the language, explaining the process to the client, understanding the client's mentality and the cultural differences. So being a multilingual attorney helps, but I don't know the first thing about Serbian law, even though I'm from Serbia. However, I often work with attorneys from Serbia. So if there is an inheritance matter where some of the assets are in the States and some are in Serbia, and the primary procedure is in Serbia and they have ancillary in New York, then I join in as a New York attorney, but I can discuss with the client and with the local Serbian attorney how things are done in the States as opposed to Serbia. And there are some similarities, some differences, but that's what's been helpful to me. So if any of you are bilingual, that may be something to tap into if you're interested, of course.
And one thing about the general practice section, when I first opened up my own practice, I always said, you don't know what you don't know, right? You think you know everything as a lawyer, right? And you pass the bar exam, you think you know everything. And then I had the fortune of being in a suite when I first opened up. So I had people that I could bounce things off of. And things that they don't teach you in law school are out there in reality. Like, you handle a personal injury case, you have to fill out a retainer statement saying who referred it to you with the Office of Court Administration. If you don't, you can get in trouble. They don't teach you that in law school, right? I learned that from a suite mate, but from having for having the support system of the general practice section, there are people that can steer you, out of those ethical minefields, and tell you things. Okay, you're handling this type of case, make sure that you do this, so make sure you do that. So yeah, I think that's a really good point that most people don't realize, is that you think you come out of law school and and there's so much that you don't know.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for being a part of our meet and greet.
All right, thank you. So
thank you for having us, and
Yes.
good luck with law school and the bar exam. I mentioned that, and join. This is a better spent money than buying a pizza pie.
100%. Well, I don't know about that. Pizza's pretty good, but
but this is the gift that keeps on giving. Pizza
This is
cannot
true.
help you with drafting the complaint, or responding to interrogatories, or what do I do now?
Very true.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you. Sorry about that glitch.
No, you're fine.
All right. Take care.
You too. All right. So now we're going to get started with environmental and energy law section, and we have Amy Kendall. Unfortunately, she is having some technical difficulties with her camera, but she is here to talk.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I will share my screen in a moment because I do have some slides, but I thought I'd first talk about what do environmental and energy law attorneys do? What do we do? And it's such a broad range of things. It could be helping businesses with the very extensive environmental permitting or compliance requirements. It could be representing parties in litigation where an environmental harm is involved, and that could be an impact to air or water or land or endangered species, any number of things. One thing our firm does a lot, I don't personally do, but our firm does a lot of, is we help shepherd companies and individuals through the process of getting contaminated sites cleaned up and making sure that responsible parties, the parties that are actually responsible for the contamination, pay for that cleanup. I personally do a lot of water related law. So it could be getting a dock permitted, or figuring out riparian rights, which is rights on a river, or littoral rights, which are rights on a lake. I deal with Clean Water Act permitting and citizen suits under the Clean Water Act, which is a federal law that allows for individuals to sue for harms to water bodies, waters of the United States. I do a lot of wetlands permitting, which is, if you have it's called a wetland, but it's a wet area, you can't just build a house in it. So I do a lot of assistance on, getting appropriate permits, making sure that the wetland is protected. I thought I'd touch on a couple of things that our section is really very involved in right now, so that you can kind of see how much is really going on that is in the news now. One of the big issues that we're dealing with is, of course, climate change. New York has a first of its kind, strictest in the nation, climate change law, and very intense goals associated with that. The section has been involved in commenting on not only the law, but lobbying for changes to it, and also lobbying with respect to the regulations associated with it. We have a lot of, I guess I'll get to that in a minute, but the section has a variety of committees that do a lot of really hands-on rulemaking and commenting, and so we're very involved with regulators. So climate change is a big deal right now. Environmental justice is a big deal. And thinking about that is, it's really, I'm not an expert on this topic and I don't purport to be, but it is the idea that there are certain segments of our community that have historically been more impacted by contamination, pollution, and that has had a significant impact on those communities. So we need to, in thinking about permitting and siting new facilities, we have to make sure that we are keeping justice principles in mind when we're doing that. So that is a big push, both federally and at the state level. We have a very active environmental justice section, committee. The other thing that's really in the news right now that we're very involved in is environmental and social governance, ESG is called. And that's, to simplify it, companies, shareholders are really demanding that companies do particular things in terms of environmental and social justice. And, our members help companies navigate that and help, shareholder groups kind of push those issues. So that's a big thing on the national stage. So I guess if I could just share my screen, let me see if I can do this. All right, can you see that?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay. All right, so I made this slide just to kind of outline what our section does. Our section is free to join if you're a student.
We don't see the PowerPoint.
You don't see the PowerPoint?
No, it's just a line.
Okay. All right. Let me try that again. Gosh, I just got a new computer and it's a lot, honestly. Let me try to share this screen.
There we go.
Do you see it? Oh,
we have a essay contest.
Yeah, let me see if I can go backwards. Okay.
There we go.
All right, do you see the first one?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay. So basically our section, as I just mentioned, is free for students. So I believe that the General Bar Association is free for students as well, though don't quote me on that. But the section is also free for students. We are trying to encourage as many students as possible to join our section. We definitely want to encourage that. We are doing presentations at all the law schools around the state. The first week of November, we are doing Buffalo School of Law. So if you are in Buffalo, definitely come meet us in person. I'll be there. And you can actually see me since you can't see me now. We offer a lot of opportunities for law students, not only just joining the section and becoming involved in the committees, but we have specific opportunities for law students, including our essay contest and our diversity and inclusion fellowship in environmental law, which I'll talk about in a minute. Our section, we have a publication called the New York Environmental Lawyer. It comes out, I believe, 3 times a year. It has very substantive articles on environmental and energy law on various different topics. We offer a lot of CLE programming and non-CLE programming, actually, that talks about different things that come up in environmental and energy law. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is the networking opportunities. And so our section is very regulatory based, right? So we deal a lot with the Environmental Protection Agency, or the Public Service Commission in New York, or the Department of Environmental Conservation. And the important thing for our section is we have lawyers from those agencies that are members. And that provides a level of cooperation and camaraderie, and the ability to network with those individuals and getting to know them on a personal basis is really important in the practice. And not to mention networking with other lawyers that, you know, work at big firms, small firms. I personally work at a very small firm, but we have a dedicated environmental practice. And, you know, professional growth, I mean, I think that's the theme of all of the sections, but we have a lot of different committees. So if you're interested in endangered species, we have a committee. If you're interested in brownfields or superfunds, which are contaminated sites, we have a committee that's dedicated to that. Coastal and wetland resources, climate change. We have a number of different committees that focus on, if you're not a general environmental or energy law practitioner, that focus on specific areas. We do have a presence not only on the NYSBA's website, but also on LinkedIn and I guess X now. I couldn't find a good icon for that to put on the bottom of the slide, but you know, check those out. We try to stay up to date on getting things posted that are relevant to our area. And, you know, definitely come out and see us at our fall meeting or at the annual meeting in New York City. So I'm going to move to the next slide just to talk a moment about our essay contest. It's open to JDs and LLM candidates that are enrolled in a New York law school. We take essays on particular topics. Maximum length is 35 pages. Basically, we award first, second, and third places. The first place winner receives $1,000, and their article is published in the New York Environmental Lawyer. The second and third place finishers will also be considered for publication in our journal. So that's something to keep an eye out for. The deadline is in the summer. So as you're thinking about over the next semester, putting together a paper of some sort, definitely keep this in mind, because you might be able to repurpose something you've already written. The other thing I wanted to mention is our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Fellowship. We, as a section, we take applications from students with excellent academic and leadership achievements who identify with groups that are underrepresented in the legal profession. We have 2 fellowships that are available. We've increased the amount of those fellowships to $10,000. This is for a summer fellowship. So we also pair our students with a nonprofit or a government agency that don't traditionally pay for internships or summer internships. So we're trying to give people opportunities to participate in unpaid internships for environmental and energy law. And then just finally, this is just about the environmental and energy law section's annual meeting, which is going to be the 17th and 18th in New York City. So keep an eye out for that. And so I guess that's it.
Perfect, thank you. Do you just want to give a brief, if anyone has any questions, they can put questions in the Q&A. But do you want to give a brief description about how the section's supporting you in your career?
Yeah, so I've been involved in this section for a very long time. I am currently the second vice chair, which just means that I'm going to be chair in 2 years. The section, as I said, I guess if I had known in law school what I know now about the Bar Association, I would have joined. And nobody tells you in law school that you need to network in order to get a job and advance your career. You know, the biggest benefit that I've gotten from the Bar Association is the networking opportunities and the camaraderie. I've met a lot of people. We're a pretty close-knit group with lawyers all over the state, and with very different types of expertise, frankly. And so we have a network of, you know, if I can't handle something, I can refer it out to somebody else. Or if I have a question about something, I can call somebody else that I know works in that area. So it's a really good networking opportunity. And for $0, it's worth it, you know.
Perfect, thank you so much. It doesn't look like we have any questions. But I appreciate you taking time out of your day to tell us about the environmental and energy law section.
Certainly, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so next we're gonna move on to the health law section. We have Justine Lee and Logan G, who will be assisting with going over that section. So if you guys would like to just give a brief description about yourselves, that would be great.
Sure. Hi, my name is Justine Lay. I am an associate at Shepherd Mullen, and I practice primarily in healthcare and FDA regulatory law. So it's really, really nice to be here. And I have been involved with the health law section for a few years now, and Logan and I co-chair the Young Lawyers Committee.
Thanks, Justine. And my last name is Geen, but everyone, Amanda, subconsciously puts the R in. I'm kind of used to it by now. As mentioned, Justine and I are co-chairs of the Young Lawyers Committee. I'm also involved in a couple task forces for the health law section, which I can talk about if there's any interest in some of the advocacy work we do. I am currently in-house counsel for Excelis Health Plan Incorporated, which does business in upstate New York as Excelis Blue Cross Blue Shield and Univera Healthcare. I provide support for our Medicare Advantage, Medicaid, managed care, and a handful of other programs in the government area. I actually am going to be leaving that position, however, in a couple of weeks to go back to private practice. I'll be joining Nixon Gwilt Law, which is a boutique law firm that does a lot of work with digital health, software as medical device, and other innovative startups. So I'll be going kind of back to my roots, working on the provider side.
Justine, you're muted.
Oh, no, I'm
No,
good.
okay, you can talk. All right, yes. And then if you just want to tell a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I thought I did already. What?
Oh, okay, yes, sorry.
You're good.
I was looking at something. Ignore me.
You're good.
All right, so your first question is going to be, how did you decide on your practice area?
Sure, I'll take that. So let me see. So I I kind of had always had an interest in healthcare law. I as a younger person, my mom is disabled, so my like growing up, I'd always kind of been involved with like her care and kind of healthcare systems. I'd always had like an eye towards healthcare, and I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor, so it was like something that an interest of mine. And when I was in college, I took a class in medical ethics, medical ethics, and that really evolved into a master's in bioethics, which is just to say that I spent quite a bit of time looking at kind of the intersection between healthcare ethics and the law. And I think really after I did my master's was when I was like, oh, there is a way to combine all these different areas of interest of mine and also pursue a career that I thought at the time would be very fulfilling. And I think that has been, been the case for me. So that's how I really kind of decided that I would try to pursue healthcare law, and that really solidified as I went through law school and the different, going through different classes and types of areas of law and types of practice. It really sort of solidified for me that the area of healthcare law was something that I wanted to pursue, and that really has evolved over the last few years as well. And so now I do both healthcare and FDA law, which is more life sciences, but I think has a pretty large overlap with kind of healthcare issues as well.
And I can say from my perspective, so I initially, when I was in college, couldn't decide if I wanted to go to school for hospital administration or law. So I chose to do the most expensive option and did both. I did a Master of Health Administration at Cornell before I went and got my law degree at UB. I found when I was working on my master's degree, I really didn't like working with spreadsheets and the very heavy quantitative focus, which is a major part of most aspects of healthcare administration, but I really, really liked the law electives that I took. So coming into law school, I was a little bit unusual in that I was one of only a very small number of people who really knew exactly what we wanted to do. Health law is, and this might be another question, Amanda, I'm not sure, but it's a very broad area that encompasses a wide range of things. Everybody in the general public kind of assumes it's medical malpractice when you hear it, which is ironically the one thing I have never done. I was interested in doing regulatory work with doctors and hospitals and the like, and that was what I ended up being able to do, fortunately, after graduating. But it was, like I said, very unusual. I was a few years older than most of my classmates in law school. Many of them were straight out of undergrad, really were very open, had no idea what they wanted to do. I knew exactly what I wanted to do coming in. For folks who are in law school, there sometimes are concentrations or courses that are really heavy in health law. Buffalo really didn't have that, but I was able to do some externships and internships in the health law space in law school, working for a physician group in the labor relations department of a hospital, and got a lot of good exposure that way that confirmed that was what I wanted to do.
Perfect. And how has the section supported you in your area of practice? Or in your career?
So there were some things in law school I was able to attend and actually do a little bit of networking at programs that were done in Albany. Obviously, it wasn't CLE credit at the time, but it was really a valuable opportunity to be exposed to it. The Health Law Journal is a great reference for developments in this area in New York law and beyond. So I had started actually reading that while I was in law school, continues to be a resource for me now. Since I've entered into practice, there's been a lot of really valuable support that comes from the section. As I mentioned, I'm on a couple task forces. We formed one, which is looking at regulatory reforms for the Office of the Medicaid Inspector General, otherwise known as the OMIG. They're an agency which is on, I'm going to say a power trip would be the nice way to put it. So there's actually a group of us who work in different areas in that space who are meeting to try and come up with suggested reforms that we can pass on to the governor's office. There's another task force that I'm part of, which is regarding physician ownership and new regulations the Department of Health has promulgated. These task forces are a great way for networking, to meet people and to have an impact in ways that go beyond just the day job.
Yeah, and for me, it really is a way to network, not just with the folks in the section or folks in the executive committee, which we are a part of, but also folks in the section, and also just to get a better sense of, especially as prior to starting practice and now even in practice, getting a sense of what the different areas of the law are and how, kind of how to really go about the different ways of practicing healthcare law. Because there, as Logan mentioned, you know, there are a lot of different kind of subsets of healthcare law, so it's really easy to, you know, say, oh, I'd be interested in healthcare law, but what it actually means can be very, very different things. So that has been really great. And then also the opportunity to write and kind of explore healthcare issues that maybe are not part of your, you know, daily day-to-day job. So for example, well, this was prior to starting practice, but I worked with Mary Beth Morrissey, who was formerly the chair of, I think, the New York City Bar Association's Bioethics Committee, and now is also a member of the health law section of the New York State Bar Association, health law section. And we wrote a white paper on medical aid in dying, and that was a few years ago, but it really was like, as you know, even as a law student, there were a lot of ways to get involved, and kind of, you know, opportunities to publish both generally, but also, as Logan mentioned, in our publication, or the health law section's publication. So these are all ways to kind of, you know, develop your practice, or even prior to starting practice, like figuring out different areas and ways to kind of contribute to the discourse, or learn from all of the folks and the kind of publications that we have.
Perfect. So it looks like we have a question already. So they asked, have there been big changes in healthcare law since COVID?
Yeah, I think the short answer is probably yes. Yeah, so I think from our perspective, from my perspective, I've seen, you know, a lot of there were executive orders that were released and put into place over COVID, and some of that, you know, has expired. The public health emergency officially ended in May, so a lot of the, you know, executive orders that were issued, or kind of the temporary restrictions on certain things were kind of rolled back. But since then, a lot of them have also been kind of enacted in the law or in the process of it. So for example, like our telehealth laws have changed drastically, right? Pre-COVID, not that folks didn't, you know, attend appointments and whatnot virtually, but since COVID, it really just has expanded the ability for providers to provide care virtually. And in turn, you know, payers have also kind of explored how to properly cover that care. And so I think that's just one example, but certainly the healthcare industry has changed a lot. And in turn, healthcare law, I think, has been impacted by COVID.
And especially during COVID. So as I mentioned, I work in the payer space is a little bit less represented in health law. So until recently, I was the only member of the health law executive team who was even on the payer side, and soon I won't be anymore. But the things that we see tend to be from a little bit of a different angle. So during COVID, we were getting hit with new regulations and new guidance almost daily about how coverage was being changed. Justine mentioned telehealth. That was a huge one. So there was guidance changing what things that would normally you would have to see someone in person were now being done by telehealth. There were rules regarding out-of-state practitioners having to meet certain standards in New York that were being waived that we had to keep track of. There were certain benefit changes in terms of what things were covered, and there was the one thing that the payers dealt with that was an absolute nightmare was the COVID testing requirements, because there were different federal agencies that were setting different standards, and it was very difficult for us to keep track of them with those frequent changes. Since that ended on the payer side, we've been trying to unwind some of the special rules that were adapted during the public health emergency, and that's taking forever for us to do. We're running into some new frustrations where, especially with behavioral health, one issue that I dealt with recently was COVID. During COVID, there was a change to provide Medicaid coverage for partial hospitalization and intensive outpatient mental health treatment by telehealth. That has now gone away with the end of the emergency, which is now creating access issues for patients who were able to get services during the emergency who now can't. So these are just a handful of the kind of things that we've seen, but especially in care delivery, it was a game changer.
All right, thank you guys so much. And what is one misconception you had during law school about your area of practice?
That it was
I
medical
think-
malpractice.
I was just gonna say, I think Logan, you mentioned the largest one, which is, most folks think of medical malpractice or, personal injury in that sense. But yeah, it's other. I mean, it really is. I think how broad the healthcare law kind of practice can be, and how broad your practice can be. So, like, for example, my practice spans like really across the board, right? So I'm involved as a regular, even just on the regulatory side, I'm involved in deals and transactions because you need regulatory specialists to kind of look at the licenses, the permits, any kind of approvals for a transaction to actually be to actually happen. There's general advice and counseling that is done, and that's more just like research analysis of like regulations, laws. That it also goes to like kind of contracts. So if we're just reviewing like physician contracts, like there are fraud, waste, and abuse considerations that you want to look at to make sure kind of like the compensation is fair market value, all of that. And it also spans into like, more kind of litigation in terms of investigations. So we'll also look at, different things that are related to, kind of any subpoenas. And that's just, again, like that's just a part of, one person's practice. So I think one of the misconceptions I had absolutely was that, healthcare law meant medical malpractice, meant litigation. And it really, really is not that narrow. So that's been really, really interesting to kind of discover.
One other thing, this is not so much a misconception, but it's something that you will, if you were interested in health law, you will find is you will be asked constantly, whether it's at law firm interviews for OCIs or just in general, whether you want to do corporate or litigation, as if those were the only two choices. Health law is both of those and neither. It encompasses some corporate, some litigation. It encompasses other areas like labor law. Pretty much every area of law has some unique twist in healthcare. And then the core of health law, which is really kind of the regulatory compliance work, is very much administrative law focused. So if you are interested in health law, admin law is probably the most important course I would recommend taking. But the bottom line is it doesn't fit in at all to that kind of basic binary framework that some people still talk about.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to open it for questions. In the meantime, while we're waiting for some questions to populate, what is one piece of advice you'd give law students?
So I'll go and start. I think Amy talked about this a little bit too when she was presenting earlier, but talk to as many people as you can, and not just like, regardless of like where you are in a job search process, like it's just generally talk to as many people as you can, from partners down to associates, down to, just like paralegals, right? Anyone who can give you any insight into the profession. And what I just quoted was like private firms, right? Like talk to like DAs, public defenders, like talk to everyone you can, because I think it's very easy in law school to kind of have like a one track mind, right? Like you've got to do well at OCI, or you've got to do well with like your public interest interviews, or like you just got to do this, and that's the only way of getting there. And that is just simply not true. So talk to everyone, as many people as you can, to kind of get as much information as you can and hear about as many different experiences, so that you can better figure out for yourself like what you want to do, what routes are available to you. And networking is just such a big part of this profession that I think is not really, not that it's not emphasized in law school, but it really, really is like the way you get to, like, from learning to developing business someday, if that's something you want to do. Like it really, really does make a big difference. So get out there and talk to as many people as you can. And like I said, it's not just about like a specific type of person, but I mean, even across the board, just like, you never know in everyday life, like who you might run into who can really like help you kind of give you some perspective on your career or something like that.
And I would say, be prepared to be a little bit flexible in terms of internships or what direction your career takes. And that's something which will begin in law school and will continue on through your career. So I had learned when I was going through the OCI process, I will say generally the OCI process is one of the most dehumanizing experiences that you will endure. So just be warned. That's the on-campus interviews with law firms. But I ran into a challenge personally with that because I was very focused on healthcare. As I mentioned, I knew what I wanted to do. That is, generally speaking, not going to be a great selling point during the OCI process because the nature of the summer associate programs is that firms like to be able to rotate you through different areas and then place you where you're needed. So if you come in with a really predetermined goal like that, that may not mesh well with some of the larger firms. Not universally true, but I would say in that particular environment, just be mindful of that. In terms of other opportunities, my internships in law school ended up being unpaid. Unfortunately, they were great experiences that I was able to parlay later into my career. They were in situations I didn't necessarily expect to be. One of them was in the Attorney General's office. There's a lot to do on the government side. One of them was with a physician group working for in-house counsel. There's also public interest in health law. There's a lot of different facets in different places and environments you could end up. So I would say be very open-minded. And then as mentioned, carry that over into your career. I didn't anticipate that I would be working for a payer. That was the dark side, but I got an offer I couldn't refuse. Had a great 4 years here. And I'm moving on to another job now in a completely different part of health law that I didn't expect I would be. So flexibility is a huge thing.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone have any questions for Logan or Justine, even Amy, because she's still on? Or do you guys have anything else you'd like to say or add in?
Only thing I would add is if anybody would like to learn more, they're welcome to reach out to me. And I think Justine, you'd probably be fine with it too. Don't want to speak for you, but
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. All right. So quick and easy. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us. I do appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks
very much.
Of course. So this would conclude our current third panel session of the law student meet and greets. We do have a couple more coming up. One second. So we have Thursday, October 26th, Thursday, November 2nd, and Thursday, November 3rd. If you're interested in signing up on those, feel free to do so. But that is all that we have. Thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you.